Director Wray, does the FBI access the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Database for information on domestic crime?
The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Database? I mean, we have a variety of databases. We do not investigate domestic crime through our Fisa authorities.
That would seem to contradict things that we've heard previously. You're saying that the FBI does not access any of the foreign databases, either the 12333 or the Fisa database, looking at domestic crime.
Well, maybe you and I are using slightly different definitions of the term domestic crime. I think we use the foreign intelligence authorities that we have and the foreign intelligence databases that we have to investigate counterterrorism, counterintelligence, and cyber activity on behalf of foreign actors. Are there situations where some of those programmatic areas then result in criminal charges that are statutes that could also be domestic crimes? Absolutely.
But you're telling me that a guy that is alleged to sell drugs and talks to people in Mexico whose conversations might be caught up in an international database, you're not accessing those to go after drug charges?
Senator, I'd be happy to try to arrange a more detailed briefing that could get
No, but that's either a yes
weeds.
or a no. Either you do it or you don't do it. In the past, my understanding is the FBI has said that they do this, that they do access, and that's been a big debate over what the legislation should say on what you should do. And in the recent FISA reform, we actually said you can only do it, or that it requires a warrant if you have an open and active investigation. The point from those of us who believe we need more privacy control is that we're concerned that the FBI, thousands of agents across the country, could be looking at conversations about domestic crime or about anything, perhaps, without a warrant. And that's the debate we've been having for years in this country, and this is a public policy debate, not one over secrets. So your testimony is that the FBI does not access foreign databases to investigate in any way domestic crime.
Senator, I would want to be more careful in my answer to you, so let me propose to get back to you with something in writing on that.
The reason this is a debate is that when we collect information on people overseas, we don't use the Constitution. We don't believe necessarily that the Constitution applies to you if you live in Libya. So we scoop up all your information. We listen to phone calls everywhere, including Angela Merkel, everybody. We listen to everybody's phone calls around the world. And so, but we tend to tolerate that, but we have the Constitution for those of us in the United States. So if you happen to catch someone talking on the phone, so for example, do you think that it's possible that the President's conversations with international leaders are in the FISA database?
I'm not sure there's anything I could speak to in this
Well,
setting.
It's been reported in the Washington Post about 2 years ago. There were 1,500 times in which the president, this was when Obama was president, was minimized, meaning that, yes, you are gathering up so much information, you, the NSA, the intelligence community, that actually the president's conversations are gathered up in there. Do you think it's possible that members of Congress are in the FISA database if we talk to international leaders?
Well, Senator, I am quite confident that we are conducting ourselves in a manner consistent with the law and the Constitution and subject to extensive oversight. I don't know that I could speak to every hypothetical about whether or not there have been situations.
Do you think it's possible that journalists' conversations, if they're talking with international journalists overseas, or if they mention that they're doing a story on el-Baghdadi or another terrorist name, do you think that there's a possibility that journalist conversations are in the FISA database?
I can't speak to specific hypotheticals.
I think the answer is yes. And do you think it's a possibility that international businessmen and women who are having conversations with people overseas could be caught up in your database as well?
Senator, as I said, I am confident that the FBI is adhering to its authorities in a manner consistent with the law passed by the Congress and the Constitution.
The problem is while the FBI, by and large, is full of good people, yourself included, you have had some bad apples. You had Peter Strzok and his girlfriend talking about trying to bring the president down. You've had people bringing their politics to work. The concern of us who want more control over what you do and how you look at data is that, as Madison said, men are not angels. That's why we have the Constitution. That's why we ask you to get a warrant. The information you've gathered in the foreign database is not constitutional in the sense that it's gathered with no bar. There is no warrant. There is no constitutional manner to that data. And yet you're going to then use it on domestic crime. That has been our complaint for years and years and years, that you should not be allowed to access that data without a warrant. Why? Because we don't want Peter Strzok and his girlfriend down there looking up Republican donors or conservative donors. We want there to be controls. And it's not to say that most people are bad apples. I think 99% of the people at the FBI are good people. But the 1 or 2% that become Peter Strzok's or Andy McCabe's or abuse their authority down there need to have the control of the Constitution. That's why we continue to argue that these FISA databases, any of these foreign databases, that if you're going to look in them, if you have an FBI agent in Omaha and he or she's going to look at the database, into any of these databases, they should call a judge and get a warrant. That way we don't allow bias to enter into this. This has been, from the beginning of time, the protections we want, and I don't think it's being taken adequately. Thank you.
Senator, I would just say that I disagree with the characterization of it as being unconstitutional in terms of the way in which we've conducted ourselves, but I appreciate your kind words about the men and women of the FBI. I would say that the recent legislation that was passed by this Congress was important legislation to keep Americans safe, and I think we can protect the American people and uphold the Constitution at the same time, and I think that's what we're doing.